as an educator, I think there's probably two things that drew me to Suzuki Method. One was the fact that this whole endeavor was couched in philosophy of putting the child first, of developing the whole child. The other thing was, can we do this for the guitar?
More than 50 years ago, violinist Shinichi Suzuki made a discovery that would change the lives of children, families, and teachers worldwide. He realized that by imitating the process through which children learn their native language, even the very young could learn to play music excellently. Starting with the violin, the Suzuki method of talent education quickly expanded to other string instruments. But it wasn't until the 1980s that the value of the method was realized for teaching the guitar. Since then, interest in Suzuki classical guitar has grown exponentially, and with resounding success.
You're teaching kids on a very high level. It's very satisfying professionally and artistically. You're not just teaching, kiddie music. You're teaching real art, and it's just very satisfying artistically and in terms of helping other people.
In 1986, the Guitar Committee of the Suzuki Association of the Americas was formed, and in 1990, in cooperation with the European and Australian guitar committees, the first of 9 repertoire books of the Suzuki method for the guitar was published. The books are a graded selection of music designed to gradually build skills. Early pieces prepare students for the advanced techniques required for later works.
The Suzuki method was so appealing to me because it was so organized and it was so clear. You do it by steps. I recognized instantly that those steps are the same steps that I had just learned in my master's degree. And so the very advanced techniques are taught to children.
Suzuki has many quotes, and one of the best is that success breeds success. That if you get a child to accomplish something and do it well, even if it's a little step, the next step can be a little bit bigger, and they're empowered. And you start repeating that pattern with slightly bigger demands, and then by the time they get into the mid and upper books, they're teaching themselves their fingerings. It's just an amazing process.
The thing that was the most beneficial to me was that there was a repertoire that the kids could hear and be excited about. So when they played something and they recognized it, they were enthusiastic.
The central tenet of the Suzuki method is that all children can learn from their environment. The establishment of this environment is dependent on the Suzuki triangle, a nurturing and collaborative dynamic where the parent, teacher, and child work together to develop the child's potential, both musically and as a human being.
That teacher invests in their student, and it's a very special relationship that lasts over just a course of time. And for all of my kids, they've just they look forward to seeing that teacher. They practice at home. We think in terms of, how did your teacher tell you to do this? Because of that love and that relationship, they develop a sense of, I want to accomplish this.
It's never about the final product in Suzuki. It's always about your process of learning, the method, and the joy as we go through with each step. I can't say I've ever had a situation, a lesson, or a situation with him where there's been a really, truly negative feeling in the environment. I really can't. It's not to say that it's always been super positive, like you're wonderful when you're not, but there's always a way of thinking about learning that is a constructive way.
The biggest difference between a Suzuki studio versus a more traditional studio is that it's more of a learning community. So the kids are not just coming in by themselves, they're coming in with a parent. The parent shares the learning experience, and they have those goals of making it through the books and so forth. So that's the primary difference, is the whole family is part of a community.
The guitar is one of the most popular instruments in the world, and despite its late entry into the Suzuki Method pedagogy, the demand for Suzuki-trained guitar teachers has grown dramatically.
I spoke to a group of teachers at a university, and when one of them actually figured out that my program was comprised of all school-age children and that they all started on classical guitar, his statement was, "I wouldn't just jeopardize my program by only teaching classical guitar." In reflecting on it since then, making that transition to teaching only classical guitar made the studio more successful.
I retained students for such a long time that some years I can't even add any new ones because nobody's moved away, because that's usually how I lose my students.
It's a relationship that lasts for a lifetime. We've only, in these 13 years, had one teacher that's moved away, so we've been blessed to have continual teachers. And that just happened this past year, and that was so hard. We cried.
I have students that I started before they were 6, and at the age of 18, they're still my students. So I never had that kind of longevity in my studio before. So the person who says I wouldn't jeopardize my studio is underestimating the amount of interest that kids have in learning. And if presented with the right learning community, they rise to it and they enjoy it. So they can learn. They can learn very deeply and more than you realize.
Numerous training opportunities have been developed by the SAA, including single units that sequentially guide the teacher through the repertoire books, and a long-term format offered through degree-granting institutions. This includes not only technical information, but it also helps the teacher to develop the environment that allows the child to succeed.
You know, the Suzuki book, it doesn't really look like much when you flip through it. You know, it doesn't look any different than anything else. It's just this sequence of tunes. I mean, somebody who didn't know anything about all the people that are involved in that and all the ideas and the philosophies and all the, you know, the great institutes. And I think you can look at that and think it's very plain. It's all that other stuff, that community that shares so many ideas that makes it so successful.
Unique to the Suzuki community is an eagerness by all members to share more than 50 years of collected experience with others. This support extends well beyond the Suzuki Association's network of 6,000 teachers. Annual conferences, leadership retreats, and training institutes provide the opportunity for ongoing collaboration and continued learning.
When I first became involved in the Suzuki Method, there was a joke going around about the one true way, you know, that everybody had to do it exactly like Dr. Suzuki, but it was a joke. And the reality really is, the only person that really taught the Suzuki Method was Dr. Suzuki. I teach the Madsen Suzuki Method, and the things that I bring to it and that are important to me, I can instill in my program.
Because we have a way of looking at the world in a positive way, we can see the positive things in many different approaches. And we can try different things. We can learn from so many people and bring that into our teaching.
I think the tone development principles of Suzuki, striving for a beautiful tone as the centerpiece of everything, is agreed upon by anybody. But what Suzuki does is it brings graded technical development into pieces, into songs that have beautiful melodies. And I think that's the biggest success, is that it's always music. It's always technical development under the umbrella of beautiful tone and a beautiful melody.
More than 50 years ago, Shinichi Suzuki discovered that the boundless beauty inherent in music could positively impact lives. Make that discovery for yourself. Observe a lesson, listen to students, speak with parents, and meet with teachers. Experience the sound of success with the Suzuki Method for guitar.